The story kicks off in Washington, where a highly trained federal strike team is closely watching a young man named Usman because they have solid proof that he is planning to blow up a government building. They grab him before he can do any damage, but once they get him into the interrogation room, he completely shuts down and refuses to say a single word to the senior officers. This is where we meet Nate Foster, a rookie agent who just finished his academy training, and instead of yelling, he sits down and starts talking to Usman in his native Somali language. This simple move makes the suspect feel so comfortable that he finally starts answering questions, and this impressive strategy catches the eye of a senior agent named Angela, who realizes Nate has a very unique talent for getting inside people's heads. Nate is mostly a loner who spends all his free time reading files and working late, which makes him a target for jokes among the other guys in the office, but his quiet nature is exactly what makes him perfect for a massive new case. During a top-secret briefing, the agency director announces that a highly dangerous radioactive chemical called CCM was recently shipped into the country from North Africa, but the transport truck crashed and someone stole the cargo. The police only managed to find 2 of the chemical containers, leaving 6 completely missing, and those 6 boxes hold enough raw power to build a massive bomb that could wipe out a city block. The director orders every agent to start hunting down local terror cells, and Angela immediately points her finger at the local white supremacist networks because she strongly believes they want to build a weapon to start a race war. To prove she is right, she pulls Nate aside and tells him about a famous radio host named Dallas Walsh who uses his massive daily platform to spread intense hatred and convince his listeners to attack anyone who is not white. Angela knows Nate can talk his way into any situation, so she gives him the most dangerous assignment of his life, telling him to completely erase his normal identity, sneak into the local supremacist gangs, and get close enough to Walsh to see if his followers are hiding the stolen chemicals. Nate is completely tired of sitting behind a desk all day and wants to make a real difference, so he instantly accepts the undercover mission and starts transforming himself into a totally different person. He shaves all his hair off to match the skinhead look and forces himself to spend days reading their books and listening to their angry podcasts so he knows exactly what to say and how to act around them without blowing his cover. Angela sets up a fake background story claiming Nate is a hardened military veteran who just got back from an overseas deployment, and she uses a street informant to introduce him to a local gang leader named Vince. Vince and his aggressive crew meet up with Nate, and because Nate plays the part so perfectly, they instantly welcome him into their circle, completely believing that he is a trained soldier who hates the same people they do. 2 younger guys in the gang named Roy and Johnny start hanging out with Nate every single day, and to prove he is permanently part of their family, Nate even gets a matching swastika tattoo drawn permanently on his hand. Angela tells him he has to keep up this dark act no matter what it takes because it is the only way Vince will eventually introduce him to the wealthy radio host Walsh. Living this double life takes a huge toll on Nate, who has to wait until late at night to secretly type up his federal reports, and whenever the gang members knock on his door in the morning, he has to frantically hide his government laptop so they do not kill him. Vince completely trusts Nate now, so he invites him to a private backyard barbecue hosted by a smart engineer named Jerry, who looks like a totally normal suburban dad instead of a tattooed gang member. Nate is actually relieved to talk to Jerry because the man uses calm words and acts like a mature adult, even though he secretly holds the exact same dark beliefs as the rest of the violent gang. During this same party, Vince introduces Nate to a massive, heavily muscled guy named Andrew Blackwell, who runs a much larger and heavily armed militia group located in another state. Everyone at the party gathers around the television to watch Dallas Walsh give an interview about organizing a massive nationwide rally, and Nate uses this perfect moment to tell Vince that he is a huge fan and wants to meet the radio host in person. Vince keeps his promise and takes Nate to a private convention a few days later where hundreds of radicals have gathered together in a single room to listen to Walsh deliver a dark speech that gets the whole crowd cheering loudly. After Walsh steps off the stage, Vince introduces him to Nate, and Nate plays his cards perfectly by claiming he has rich friends who want to invest thousands of dollars into the radio show to help broadcast the message across the entire world. Walsh loves the idea of getting free money and expanding his business, which gives Nate the perfect excuse to stay in contact with him, but the undercover job gets much more dangerous a few days later when Nate is walking down the street with Roy and Johnny. The 2 younger guys see a black man walking with his girlfriend and instantly decide to start a brutal fight, and when Nate fails to talk them out of it, he realizes he has to do something extreme to protect his fake identity. Instead of actually punching the innocent man, Nate grabs a heavy glass bottle and smashes it against the store window right behind the couple, which triggers a loud burglar alarm and forces the whole gang to run away before the cops show up. Later that week, Nate goes to the massive rally that Walsh organized, and even though it makes him feel sick inside, he forces himself to stand in the crowd and scream angry slogans so nobody suspects he is an FBI agent. The rally turns into a total disaster when protesters show up and a massive street fight breaks out right in front of the riot police, with people throwing punches and breaking car windows everywhere. Nate spots the militia leader Andrew bleeding from a head wound, so he grabs him and pulls him out of the riot, driving him straight to Jerry's quiet suburban house so they do not get arrested by the police. While patching up Andrew, Nate sits down for dinner dinner with Jerry's family and notices again that Jerry is a very calm guy who completely avoids going to these violent street rallies, preferring to stay home and read books instead. Andrew is incredibly thankful that Nate saved him from going to jail, so the next day he invites Nate out to a massive secret compound hidden deep in the woods where his militia is actively training for a war. Andrew tells Nate that street gangs like Vince's are just a bunch of loud kids who will never change the world, but his militia is planning something huge, and Nate's heart starts racing when he sees crates of heavy weapons stacked everywhere. Andrew unrolls a massive blueprint of the city water system and says they could easily destroy the pipelines to cripple the entire state, which makes Nate absolutely sure that Andrew is the guy hiding the stolen radioactive chemicals. Nate plays along and tells Andrew that he can use his military background to teach the militia guys how to shoot properly, sealing their friendship and giving Nate full access to the secret base. Moving to the next target, Nate drives over to Walsh's house and hands him $7,000 in cash, claiming it is just a small sample of what his wealthy investor friends are willing to pay to support the cause. While Walsh is counting the money, Nate asks to use the bathroom and quietly pulls out a tiny federal scanner to check the house, and the device actually picks up a faint trace of radiation coming from somewhere inside the walls. Nate rushes back to his safe house and urgently calls Angela, telling her to get more money ready and to warn the strike teams that Walsh and Andrew are definitely working together to build the radioactive bomb. Nate completely ignores Vince and the street gang from this point on, spending every single day hanging out at Andrew's compound to gather more clues about where the bomb is hidden. Vince gets really jealous and shows up at the compound to yell at Nate and call him a traitor, but Andrew completely sides with Nate and uses his armed guards to kick the street gang off the property for good. Once the FBI approves more funding, Nate goes back to Walsh's house and offers him a massive stack of cash, pushing hard to find out exactly what the big violent plan is. Walsh gets very defensive, slides the money back across the table, and tells Nate to get out of his house because he is not planning any attacks at all. Right after he gets kicked out, Angela calls Nate and tells him to come straight back to the FBI headquarters because everything just fell apart in the worst way possible. She explains that Walsh actually walked into the FBI building that same afternoon and filed a police report claiming a crazy guy named Nate was trying to pay him to commit a terrorist attack. Angela did not try to hide Nate's identity and accused Walsh of hiding radioactive material, but Walsh completely embarrassed the agency by revealing he is just a greedy businessman who does not actually care about the cause. Furthermore, Walsh brought his medical records proving he has prostate cancer, completely explaining that the radiation Nate detected was just from his daily hospital treatments, meaning Walsh has nothing to do with the stolen bomb. The FBI director yells at both of them for wasting time, confirming that Andrew is also innocent because his pipeline map is just a fake prop he uses to recruit naive kids, and all the guns at his compound are completely legal. With zero evidence left to chase, the boss orders Angela to shut the entire operation down, leaving Nate completely depressed that he risked his life for months and failed to stop the real bombers. Nate starts packing his bags to leave town, but he finds a book that Jerry let him borrow and decides to drive over to the quiet suburban house to give it back before he moves away. When Jerry opens the door, he can see Nate looks completely broken, and Nate admits he is leaving the state because he failed to do anything real to help their cause. Jerry looks around quietly and tells Nate that if he is really serious about taking action, he can join his private crew, completely shocking Nate by revealing that he is the mastermind who actually has the stolen chemicals. Jerry explains that he is building the massive weapon in his garage with two friends, but they are stuck because they cannot find a specific chemical needed to make the detonator work properly. Nate immediately lies and says he knows a black market medical supplier who can get them a much better explosive called TATP, which instantly impresses Jerry and secures Nate a spot on the actual bomb squad. Nate runs out and calls Angela to tell her the mission is back on, and the FBI quickly cooks up a batch of fake, harmless TATP powder to trick the terrorists. Nate calls Jerry and gives his crew heavy rubber suits, claiming they need to wear them to stay safe from the dangerous chemicals, but Jerry still refuses to tell Nate when or where they plan to detonate the massive weapon. The situation turns critical the very next morning when Angela calls Nate in a panic, revealing that Jerry's crew went to a hardware store and bought enough fertilizer to trigger the bomb without needing Nate's fake explosives. Realizing they are going to blow up a city today, Nate jumps in his car and speeds straight to Jerry's house, walking right into the garage and shocking the three men who thought he was ignoring their calls. Jerry says they are moving the timeline up because he thinks the cops are watching them, and Nate finally sees the massive, deadly bomb sitting right there in the middle of the garage floor connected to the stolen boxes. Nate tells the guys he needs to wash his hands before they start working, steps into the house bathroom, and quietly calls Angela to send the heavily armed SWAT teams right now. He begs her to wait exactly 1 minute before breaking the doors down because Jerry's innocent wife and kids are sitting in the living room and he wants to keep them safe from the gunfire. Nate walks casually back into the garage and offers to help Jerry connect the final wires, secretly dropping a handful of white washing powder on the floor near everyone's boots. He suddenly yells out that one of the radioactive boxes cracked open and is leaking deadly powder all over their feet, which makes the three men panic and scramble to put on their heavy protective suits to save their lives. Jerry realizes it is a trick and lunges forward to kill Nate, late, but the delay was all the FBI needed, and the SWAT team smashes through the garage doors, pinning everyone to the floor and securing the bomb without a single shot being fired. The next morning, the whole FBI office throws a massive party for Nate to celebrate saving the city, and he happily tells Angela that the director promoted him and is moving him to a bigger office in Texas. The story ends on a hopeful note by showing the young gang member Johnny standing inside a classroom, having completely abandoned the violent street life to become a speaker who teaches young kids to stay away from the exact same dangerous path he almost went down.